Hi, March 2021, International Women's Day. This is my mother, Sarah Rosler.
This is my daughter, Iris Rosler Sadeh,
Okay, and we're talking about your...
my grandmother.
Yes. So tell us about your grandmother and then about your mother, which was my grandmother.
Exactly. My grandmother was born in Poland. Unlike all of us from everybody was born in Israel and she was born. But still she retained one Polish feature. I never saw her crying and she never kissed us. She was the greatest grandmother in the world. She was erudite, intelligent, smart, and before the word was even known, feminist, she was the real feminist. On the day of Simchat Torah,
Yes.
when all the people went to synagogue and the women only had to watch the men dancing, she would find a pretext not to go to synagogue. Every single Shabbat she went. She was a prayer. She was a real pious woman, but not in the regular word, but really in meaning, inside, meaningful. But when Simchat Torah came, she never went to synagogue. I said, Savta, why don't you go? And she says, oh no, there are so many things to do. She found that pretext because she was not going to be an antagonist to the
Community.
to the tradition.
Yes.
On the other hand, she was not part of it.
And this is Tila.
My grandmother Tila and my grandfather Chaim. My grandmother always complained that they took two pictures. He was much younger, she was much older, and that's how they put her. And she was not very happy about it. Look how beautiful she was at the same age.
And
She had the bluest eyes in the world. She had sky blue eyes, very sky blue. I've never seen like that. Big sky blue, very, very smart. She read every single night. She knitted, she embroidered, and she was eager all the time to learn, to read, to talk to you, to tell you. And I really adored her. I admired her. I would sit and listen to her every single word. And I thought she was a model for me. Because on the other hand, she made the best gefilte fish in the world. And on the other hand, she was not a slave woman. She was independent and very opinionated.
And she was also a career woman.
She was a hotelier. She had a small pension. What happened she did? She took the orders, she was making reservations, she cleaned. No, she didn't clean, she always had a cleaning person. She said in Poland, I'm not used to clean houses. She didn't clean, but she cooked, she shopped, she took care of everything, she took care of everyone. And when the time came to sit down to the table, like she used to say, she said, I worked the whole day. By the time everybody said, grandfather was sitting like that, like a king, everybody around him, the lights were shining, the table was abundant, and I was exhausted. She said, Sarah, today it's much better, much, much better. Women do much less things. Women are more independent. They can choose another career. They can read, they can study. I wish I could go to school. She was very, very happy about having been to school. She went to a Polish school. Until the age of 12, she came to Israel. And everybody thought she was very learned. She had, you know what, Iris? She had a course at home, a group of women who came every week, once a week, and she would read to them. They didn't know how to read.
Really?
And she read to them Tanakh, Bible. She read to them from the Yiddish newspapers. And then, when Bashevis Zinger would publish in the Jewish magazines, she would get them much, much later, but she would read to the whole community the stories.
Really? I didn't know that. That's new for me.
Okay.
And maybe 2 things or 3 things that you took from her as being a grandmother.
I wish I took more from her. I wish I could say that I took from her something. I don't know if I took or I didn't. She was my model, but I don't know how much I took. I can't talk about myself.
Okay.
Yes, maybe I can say one thing for sure. I like to read. I love to read. I do reading, and I very much am always anxious to learn more things, new things, and that she had. The other things, I wish I was even a dust to her.
Oh, you learned a lot of stuff from her as a person.
As a person, yes. Every day I would go after her. I would walk to her. I talked to her. Everything she spoke was natural. She never thought she is something special, and she never thought she was not special. She was just natural about herself.
Mm-hmm. She didn't need to do.
Can I tell some anecdote?
Of course.
During the War of Independence,
1948.
in 1948, my grandmother one day disappeared. All the time I was looking after. I was looking for her. Where's my grandmother?
You lived in the house
the
near
house
her.
next door, and every morning I woke up and I went to be her tailing her. I said, "Well, grandmother," everybody said, doesn't speak anything. Doesn't say. I was starting to get worried. Where is she? 2, 3, 4 hours later, I see an armed bus coming in and stops in front of our house, of my grandmother's house. And out are coming my grandmother, her son, my uncle Joseph, his wife Tzipora, and their 7 kids. Well, it was in the middle of the war. Bullets were shouting all the time, everywhere, were shooting all over. And I said, how come? So what happens is my uncle used to live in a neighborhood which was attacked by the Arabs, very mixed neighborhood. And she was very worried, so she went to the Haganah, asked for a bus. They found her. She brought the bus, and she came in and she took my uncle and brought everybody. So I say to her, I was about 8 years old, and I said, grandmother, how come you did it? Why didn't grandfather say when? Why didn't grandfather go? She says, no, Sapale, you don't know. He is an only son. He is afraid. And somebody had to do it. Natural. I mean, she took it as, that's it from God. He is afraid, I'm not afraid, so I have to go. Someone has to do it. And that I took from her. You have to do something, you took it, you do it, okay, that's it.
Whatever it needs to be done,
That's to be done.
You do it.
Yes.
And maybe being brave and being confident and natural.
Yes, and taking the responsibility. And my mother was exactly not the opposite, but whatever my grandmother didn't have, she had. She had warmth, she had love. She gave love to everybody around her. What my grandmother gave in knowledge, in learning, in opening, my mother gave in love, in attention, in affection, in everything which is human contact. She kissed us, she hugged us, she kissed you, she hugged you, she suffocated you.
Yeah. Okay, two kinds of grandmothers.
Yes, two kinds of,
and
two great models.
Two great models.
If you just mix them, then you get the idea.
Thank you, Mommy.